Brent and Kalen in the morning.
Boom. All right, this is one of our inaugural
show title.
Inaugural community. Let's call it. It's going to be called the Magento Community Podcast. What do you think of that?
I like the sound.
Or we call it Kalen Cast. Kalen Community Cast.
Let's call it the Brent and Kalen Happy Hour.
There we go. Yeah, I did do a couple of podcasts from a bar, which was fun.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get drunk?
No, but we did. Anyways, we did. I was not getting drunk at all. So we were simply having fun.
Are you
recording?
Are you lying about not getting drunk?
No.
Are you falsifying? Because remember, this whole podcast is under what's that called? Under oath.
Okay.
So
of course it is. Hold on. There we go. Now everybody knows that in our green room we spent about 10 minutes just getting our hair correct in the height.
Right.
So if Kalen's forehead looks lower than mine, it's because his hair is taller.
Well, but we did dial it in nicely. I think our side by side is looking pretty good here.
All right,
We're
so this is our this is to align ourselves with the Mage Open Source Community Alliance podcast.
By the way,
is that right?
Okay,
do you agree with that?
That sounds good.
All right.
Can we talk about other things other than Magento?
People are going to love talking about other things. If we can talk about anything but Magento, we'll get a lot more people listening.
I think so. I want to talk about the EO, the entrepreneur organization stuff that you do.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
I think we should talk about our favorite brands of yogurt, potentially.
Okay. Yep. That's good. All right. Yogurt. Yep. Anything else? How about Topo Chico?
Yes.
Because now that you're in Topo Chico land, which apparently is all about Austin, Texas, and Whole Foods.
Is that a brand of chicken taco? What exactly is it?
It's a bottled water.
Is that a... Oh, okay. I thought it was a type of microphone or something like that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm familiar. I'm more of a tap man myself.
Right, right. And I've seen you at conferences with those snazzy black leather shoes on with the little metal things on the front. You do a wicked tap. So it's good.
Okay, I gotcha. I was going. I don't have any shoes with buckles.
You don't do tap dancing anymore? Because I remember that's what, when we first met.
My kids,
you were doing tap dancing.
No, I mean I broke out into a spontaneous tap dance in the foyer of the M Resort in Las Vegas, if I recall, and it ended in a standing ovation from everybody that was kind of standing around checking in. It was pretty.
It's going to be good
intense.
to see the AI results of our of this, as you say, foyer. Because it's a foyer.
Foyer.
Yeah.
Foyer.
All right.
That's a funny. The other day I had to Google how to spell foyer. That's such a hard word to say. I had to Google it. Do you know how to spell it? I'm going to put.
But it's Foyer. I don't know.
Is it?
I'm guessing.
I think you're right. No. Yeah. I think you're close.
All right. So we got.
But it doesn't.
So far for agenda.
It's not spelled the way it sounds. Is the problem?
We're going to talk about Magento, which you don't want to talk about. We're going to talk about EO.
I'm done.
Yogurt,
I'm all talked out about
Topo Chico
yogurt,
and
our exercise routines.
Okay.
All of our challenges with our spouses. any spousal challenges. Let's just air. I think we should air it out. I think that's the healthiest way to work through it.
Yeah. This is coming up for the perfect inaugural
live
Magento podcast.
It's jam-packed. It's going to be jam packed.
Excellent.
So,
all right. Well,
lots of good stuff.
Let's start with yogurt then. I buy the Mountain View yogurt from Costco in the, I don't know what it is, 2-pound tub.
A 2-pound tub? Wow.
Yeah.
Do you just open it up and just?
I slop it onto some food in the morning and some cereal or something, and that's my typical breakfast.
Okay. You just slop the yogurt onto some cereal.
Yeah. So as we're still talking about breakfast, I know that I recently tweeted to Karen Baker about where can I find really good English bangers in the U.S., and she did get back to me with a mail order place. But I did recently visit a Ukrainian deli this weekend on Saturday, and they had English bangers. So I feel like there's a trifecta happening right now with Austin, Texas, England, and Ukraine, where I'm able to source out English bangers that I love and eat them at home while sourcing them from Ukrainian deli.
That's unbelievable. It's a convergence of the Texans, the Ukrainians, the English, all in one amazing city.
Mm-hmm.
What are English bangers?
They're just like a type of sausage that are specific to England. The taste is specific to England. So, anyways,
that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So let's briefly talk about Mosca. Are you keeping up with it at all, or do you care about Magento anymore?
I haven't even talked about my favorite yogurt yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were just talking about me today.
I thought you were.
Let's go into yogurt because
I thought you were going to be interested in how I felt.
Let's do it.
Well,
let's talk about yogurt.
Do you've got to listen to me, or else this relationship
it's not going to work. That's a spousal part.
Work.
We're going to get to that at the end.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. No, I get the HEB Greek yogurt stuff. We got a bunch of those, and they're really good actually. I haven't been having too many of them, but I think I'm gonna ramp up the Greek yogurt.
We don't get HEB, but I would imagine it's just packaged by somebody.
Yeah.
Kroger or something.
HEB is amazing, man. It's just the best grocery store. But anyways, Magento. All right, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about it.
So, are you keeping up with what's rapidly happening in the Magento community?
More or less. I mean, so the last development I saw is that they're moving forward with the distribution, the Mage OS distribution, previously known as the fork. So I think, is there anything newer than that I'm Reacticon is happening.
Yeah.
Well, that's not directly related, but I think they're talking a lot about Huva, which is not really related directly to the fork, but
it's somewhat. It is. I think the relationship with Hufa and the Magento community is the fact that Adobe has been sitting on their hands on top of their existing theming for such a long time, and they're not going to change the theming at all. That the community stepped forward and said, "Hey, we've got a better idea," which is Hufa, which I think is a fantastic idea. So
I think so, man. It seems to be doing really well. A lot of people like working with it, which is neat.
And I've seen some communications now happening or coming from Adobe. Especially, I saw the page builder, a bunch of page builder social, or at least an email that came out saying, about the open source and how we're committed to the open source and that page builder is part of open source. So I guess I can understand the frustration from the community in Adobe not paying attention to what's going on. Mm-hmm. But I also think, we'll see what happens, because I guess it does if they fork it and then they just keep rolling in updates from Adobe, then it can continue to work in parallel. You just have to sort of do double work.
Yeah. That would be, it's hard to imagine that going forward, like on an ongoing sustainable or semi-sustainable basis. but that would definitely be interesting. I mean, some people say, hey, at this point, if there's a fork, Magento is kind of just toast. But yeah, if it really does go that way where it's upstream compatible long term, that would be pretty interesting.
And why do you say Magento is toast if there's a fork? Because there's going to be a fork.
No, I don't feel that way, but I've heard several people say that. I think Joseph Maxwell, I believe he said that on our last podcast. I've heard a couple other people say things to that effect. In other words, like it's already sort of open source is already struggling to an extent. And if you add to that the fact that you're going to have this other fork that's going to divert resources or brain share of people, then it just would go downhill even faster, kind of a deal. But I don't think that's the case, actually. I think that the fork will kind of be a good thing overall. So, but I don't know. A lot of people tell me I'm pessimistic about this whole thing. Like a lot of people are just so over this whole thing and so done talking about it. And like, I don't know.
Like, how do you mean? How are you pessimistic?
I don't know. Like people think that I just like the drama of it all, or like I'm just always complaining about one thing or another, you know, like that I just enjoy complaining about the Adobe situation. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think that what they're doing is cool. I think what they're doing is really like a revival of kind of the original spirit of the community, which is what I like about it. But I don't know. I have a question for you. Okay. The open source task force, I believe they closed the applications on the task force. And like, I just like, what's the point of this task force? You know, like, why do we need all these groups? Why do we need all these official groups? You know?
Yeah.
Why don't they ever, like, people are talking about and sharing their opinions in various formats and contributing code and contributing ideas on GitHub and LinkedIn, social media, Twitter. Why don't they just have someone on the Adobe side that's a community manager or product manager that is reviewing all of the chatter and kind of deciding what stuff to prioritize? Like, wouldn't that make more sense as opposed to having all these groups?
That is a great idea, and I'm sure that Adobe has thought of that. I don't know if they're prioritizing it yet, though. I do think that there has been some wake up. I think we saw the day after that Mosca open letter was posted. John Stockton had a post out, and so there is some buzz happening, and definitely it's making a difference. But you're right. I think I did do an interview with Jacob Winkler, just to clarify. Cool. No relationship to the Fonz. And
is there a guy named Jacob Winkler from that TV show?
Henry Winkler. He's the Fonz.
Oh, okay.
I gotta explain everything.
I know. I didn't even remember
so,
that.
yes, Jacob Winkler is not at all. He doesn't even jump the shark. But I feel as though if you listen to the interview is about jumping the shark, and maybe I should go back and rename it Jumping the Shark. So, his biggest complaint was that he had loads of pull requests that were just getting auto-closed, and he called it, I can't remember what he called it, some kind of like an auto-close bot or some kind of issue closing bot where it just automatically went through and closed issues on Adobe, which is just crazy wrong. I think what Adobe needs to recognize is they have, thousands and thousands of potential developers that are helping them maintain their code. And the least they could do is look at what are the issues that people are raising and decide if they're valid or not. They shouldn't be auto-closing them. I think that's terrible.
Totally. Yeah. It's really bad, and like we see like like we see that, and we see Jacob posting about that. We see others posting about those frustrations. I talked to Damian Retzinger recently, and he also had a similar deal. And I'm sure there's tons of people that have that. So like, why, I don't know. Why can't they sort of prioritize those issues? I don't know what the answer is to that. I'm sure it's sort of complicated. You know, they've got lots of things to deal with. I'm sure they have lots of, I'm sure there's tons of stuff coming through GitHub that they have to triage all the time. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
So tell me about your recent, did you just recently meet up with Eric Irway?
I did. Yeah, I did. We did a little podcast together. We met up and did one in the car here. And it was cool. Like, I really think Eric cares a lot about this. Kind of can see that in his eyes, and he's probably got a lot of different stakeholders he's dealing with and stuff like that. So like, yeah, so it was really cool. It was really cool. The challenge is that like, we can't, I don't know. It's like, sometimes you ask a question and then you don't like get the most direct answer. And, I guess they have to be careful how they're communicating things. As an example, like one of the things that David Alger posted on Twitter was he was saying that one thing that they could do, which would help a lot with open source, would be to remove authentication from the repository when you're installing or downloading whatever open source. There's an authentication layer. And so I asked about that, and he was saying, well, we're talking about it basically is what they were saying, is what his answer was. But my question was, and I was assuming that David, and David Alger, I mean, brilliant guy. I'm sure he could help to architect whatever needs to be architected. I'm guessing like he would probably just like spend time on that. He's built some really interesting tooling. And so I was like saying, now, can you just have that architected in the open with a guy like David, for example, on GitHub, and just figure it out? Like, I'm guessing he would literally volunteer the time, just figure it out, like just, be done with it. And then I didn't get a yes or no answer on whether you could just go that route. It sounds like that's something that has to be discussed internally and things like that. And so, and I'm sure they have it on a product backlog somewhere, and they're going to try to get to it when they can. But I don't know. In an ideal world, if I was running the show, which is probably the worst possible scenario, I'd be like, yeah, just let that guy figure it out. He has some time on his hands.
I think, we just have to reiterate to Adobe that they have such an opportunity right now to utilize the Magento community out there to help them build a great product.
Exactly.
And I do feel like they are missing out. I think what you just said, making some specific features that you'd like to see. I mean, okay, so remember they built MSI, and MSI was their big thing that they were going to have the community build for them, or that this was a community effort. Mm-hmm. And that seems to have sort of dipped off the edge when they were purchased by Adobe.
So what happened? I didn't follow too closely along with MSI, but I do remember a lot of different community members contributing to it. So what happened with it?
Yeah, MSI is live, multi-source inventory. It is a feature in Magento that, it is a little bit controversial. I've heard some people say some things that, maybe it complicates it even more than it should. But I think it's a feature that was definitely needed. And there's features like that are needed all the time. So, and getting the community involved on those specific things is such an exciting way to make people feel like they're part of something, as well as, open source. That's the spirit of open source.
But are you saying that you said something like it dipped when the acquisition happened or something like that? Are you saying that it...
We haven't seen any energy go towards having the community involved in building features like MSI.
Oh, okay. So we haven't seen like another MSI type of a project is what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I think that what you're talking about would be a great example of something that would be beneficial for the wider community. And if David could lead it or would like to lead it, that would be fantastic. That would be really fun and exciting for people to see. And, as we get back into the real world, we're going to have more in-person events that people are going to start seeing each other again. And that's when the communications are really going to start getting accelerated, when we can start talking in person and then start doing more communications around that stuff.
That was another thing Eric said was like, listen, like we haven't had meetups. So that really has limited the amount of communication that happens between the Adobe team and the community, which a lot of times happens at events. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there is a lot of like knowledge transfer that happens, and it's in person. So you can probably say some things that, you can have some private conversations about some things that, you're not necessarily emailing or podcasting about, which is probably good. But so, I mean, that's probably had a bit of an impact on things.
Yeah, even the roadmaps that are coming out. I don't think we've seen an Adobe Commerce roadmap yet. So they have had specific webinars about roadmaps for specific products. The Experience Manager had one, Analytics had one.
Yeah.
So I think
like one of the arguments people make is like, hey, listen, there's always going to be people complaining and saying, you should be doing more. You should be doing, they just open source Page Builder. This is me now doing devil's advocate, which is like, they just open source Page Builder and we're like complaining about a million other things. So what do you think about that argument that, there's just always going to be people complaining and wanting them to do more, and at some point they need to just ignore some of that?
Yeah, they definitely have to ignore some of the complainers, but I think there's always going to be people that are agitating complainers that have a valid reason to complain, and they should ask if, like you said, if there's somebody out there counting the number of things that people are complaining about, are those things being duplicated? Is there multiple complaints about people closing out tickets or about Autobots closing out PR requests? If that's the case, then maybe there should be something done about it. If it's a one-off complaint, or if it's just a complaint, if it's somebody like you who is just out there complaining for the heck of it because all you're trying to do is get more podcast downloads, then they might want to just ignore that. Ignore completely. You. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting situation.
I didn't mean to make you quiet there. Jeez.
I know, man.
That was an offhanded comment that was brought up by you. I want to point out that you're the one who introduced the topic earlier, and I was just going along with it, and I apologize wholeheartedly.
You were stabbing me right in that wound of feeling like I'm a complaining complainer. I'm a Debbie Downer. Show title.
My personal experience with you is that you are not a complaining complainer.
Thank you,
You're very
Brent.
welcome.
I appreciate that. Let's put that and let's clip that and let's put that in the cold open of this show, because I think everybody needs to know that.
Let's do it one more time.
Thank you.
Kalen, my opinion of you is that you don't complain ever, and that you are very enthusiastic and helping there helping people.
Thank you. Wow, Brent, that means a lot to me, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank you for recognizing that, because that's absolutely the case. I don't know. I guess everybody looks at a car accident when they drive by it. Like that's part of all. That's if it bleeds, it leads kind of a thing, I guess, to an extent. All of us are attracted to chaos a little bit, but so I don't know. I guess I try to be more self-aware of that to an extent, but no, like, I don't know. When I see people who I can tell are trying to be productive as developers, and I see them frustrated, like you mentioned, Jacob Winkler, it sticks out to me, it pops out to me, versus when I see developers that are excited about what they're doing, like when I see people working on Hoova, or other things, or shopware. When I see the way people talk about shopware, when I see a lot of times the way people talk about Shopify and being excited about shop, but I also see frustrations there too, then I just pick up on those things,
What? Yeah, I'm not involved at all in any Shopify communities, and I don't see. I have spoken to some people that are in Shopify communities, but I don't see a lot of excitement happening around Shopify communities, and maybe it's because we're a little bit removed. And
yeah,
I'm also involved in BigCommerce now, and I haven't seen a BigCommerce community yet. And maybe I'm not involved enough.
That's one of the things I hear, though, is that the sort of the community, the sort of the developer ecosystem, or whatever it is in BigCommerce, is kind of still kind of early. It's kind of building. It feels like it's building, and I don't know what that is exactly, but I'm sure it's going to be reaching kind of a critical mass at some point. They do events, and more people are using BigCommerce, and I've had for the first time a couple of people ask me about finding a BigCommerce developer, so I'm sure it'll get there, but yeah, I mean, you can just tell when people are excited about a tech stack they're working in, and when they're frustrated about it. You can just tell, like, so. Yeah,
and can you work on the tech stack in Shopify and BigCommerce? I don't know. Maybe that's part of why those people don't get too all worked up about it, because they can only do so much.
Well, they can, there's certain things they can do. They can build businesses on top of Shopify, whether they're building an app business or, an agency or as a merchant. And then, yeah, they're not working. They're not, it's not an open source tech stack, so they're not working on all of that stuff, but they're interacting with the APIs. And if the APIs are easy to work with, then they're happy about that. If they run into limitations with the APIs or weird things that you can't, like, that's one of the things TJ was telling me, is that you can very quickly run into API limits with Shopify if you're trying to do something like, for example, syncing a bunch of product data, syncing a bunch of catalog data for like an automotive site. You'll hit API limits real quickly, and then in order to get those limits lifted, you have to be a partner, or you have to get some special permission. They have it locked down sort of tight. Whereas with BigCommerce in general, you're going to have much better API limits, and you're not going to really have much of a problem. So if you're trying to build something, you hit an API limit, and then maybe you're not a partner, or you can't get a hold of anybody, you're just kind of stuck. Like, that would be super frustrating. And I've heard about people hitting weird API stuff for sure.
So the people that aren't hitting API limits are the users of Magento, which we're, again, very excited about talking about Magento.
That's all we're going to talk about.
There was a recent task force, like you said, from the Magento Association that has been months in the works, I guess. I think that the task force is something that has been accelerated because of the open source letter, or the Mage open source.
Why do we need a task force? I don't understand.
So I know who's on the task force now, and we can't say it until I think the 13th. And today's the 14th, so we can talk about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So this would be funny if you were on the task force and I'm over here ranting and raving about how we don't.
I'm
need
not
task
on
force.
the task force,
Okay,
and I'll
good.
tell you that
been...
very few, if any, Americans are on the task force. So, and I would, and from a diversity standpoint, I'm guessing there's one lady on the task force. So, I felt like
how many Minnesotans? How many Minnesotans?
There's none. There's not going to be anybody from Minnesota. So, I think just coming back to Magento Association, it seems like it is something that, like, they're always behind the curve. Like, they're always trying to catch up, which they shouldn't be. They're the ones that should be driving it. So if we talk about the three main players, the first is Adobe, the next is the Magento Association, and then the next one is now MOSCA, Mage Open Source Community Alliance. To keep saying that. Right. And this is Magento Community Podcast. Can you do it? Can you try it once?
What are you
I'm trying to pronounce it. Mosca. Like, they have a great
Magento
one. This is
Community
Podcast. We call it
Magento
Open Source Community Podcast. So Musk.
Let's try to make the acronym MOMS.
Magento Open Source. Magento Open Source.
Open.
MOSP. What?
Management.
Yeah.
Management and systems.
We were going to call it
Open
We were going to call it WASP, but then somebody pointed out that a lot of Italian Americans would not like that. So, I'm a Swedish American, and I don't know if there's ever been a lot of effort put into trying to offend the Swedish Americans. Maybe, what it is that a lot of Swedes are Lutherans, and Lutherans are very passive aggressive. So, if we're just going down the stereotype road,
let's go down that road.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to the name then. MOSP, whatever we call it.
No, let's not worry about the name. I think we'll let's crowdsource that. Let's set up a task force. But why do we? No, you said something interesting, which is the fact that, and I always feel bad being critical, but you're giving me some cover here, so it's all good because you're friends with everybody on the association, and you're saying that they're always behind things. Doesn't that make you feel bad?
Just like you would point out when, so if I'm being hypocritical about something, you would point that out, right? And I feel as though
I tell everybody that you spam me on LinkedIn. I don't hold back.
Yeah, that's a good topic for another show, because I've started now auto-replying to robots, and I'm and I'm telling them that I'm a robot as I auto-reply. So I'm excited about that's another topic. Let's not get off track. So I do feel like if I'm friends with the people on the task force, or if I'm friends with people in the association, I think there's no reason why, as friends, we can't hold each other accountable for whatever is happening, and calling people out on their BS, if there's BS, or just even saying, "Hey, you said, if we were to say we're going to do the big damn run at the Adobe Summit, and then we never do it, and then a month later we say, okay, we're doing the big damn run now," people would be like, "What are you talking about? You're supposed to do it a month ago."
Right.
If they're my friend or not, they're not. It doesn't matter. I'd want them to tell me.
Right. Exactly. So, like, what you said is interesting, because you said the association is always behind. And, like, who isn't behind? The community in general. Like, different people within the community. You just have to pick who, you just have to decide who to listen to, which I know is a little tricky, because a lot of people are saying a lot of different things, but I don't think it's that complicated. If you had a community manager or product manager whose job it was to surface up all the most, highest priority projects or suggestions or critiques, that's all you got to do. Like, well, do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Were you even listening?
I was.
I don't feel like you were.
No, I was listening. Okay. What I want to know is who what is it that they've been ahead of? Like, what? I mean, I agree 100% that the community is ahead of the curve, because they are. The community is what's driving things, and that's the reason for the letter.
Like the people that started the letter, right? Who I think they said that they're trying to get on the task force. I believe they said that. I'm certain they said that publicly, Willem and Vinay. So I'm guessing they'll probably be on the task force. But before that happened, they were outside of the association, and they were the ones that moved the ball forward because they had an itch to scratch, and they scratched it, and they made some noise about it, and they got some consensus. And I think that's how it should work. Like, we don't need an official sanctioned group to make decisions. Like, people are all doing things continuously in the community. Just harness that power, just harness that energy, So Jacob Winkler is talking about this issue with the auto-closed PRs, right? So maybe he's the guy that they should talk to about fixing that.
That's who Adobe, well, you're right. That's who Adobe and Magento Association should be talking with.
Yeah.
But it has...
Yeah. He's not in any association, so who cares? Who cares if he's in an association or not? He's the guy doing the thing. He's the guy contributing the code. So talk to him, Like, I don't know. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
No, I don't think there's nothing in there to put anybody in trouble. We're talking about how do we hold them accountable for what they say they're going to be doing. And, we heard the Magento Association put out things in person. At 2019 Adobe Summit, the Magento Association was there. They had a whole huge conference hall reserved where they did some topics and they spoke about things. And, it was just like, it was a big deal, or at least it was made out to be a big deal. And I think, they need to follow up with that.
I think everybody went into it with the best of intentions and hopes, but then it just, you get this inertia that builds up, and then things just kind of slow down. But it's like, I'm looking at that poster of the Mage run behind you, right? You organized all these runs at conferences. Now, why wasn't there a running committee that was decided on for every time there was going to be no, you just did it. You just did it yourself, like we didn't need a group to govern that. Like, the person that wanted to organize the runs, like, I don't know. I don't understand why we can't just keep doing that.
Well, I think that's kind of the spirit of Mosca.
Yeah, I think so.
It's probably going to be the same. I haven't heard the podcast that's coming out from Magento Association, but I would imagine that it's well, okay. So I'm in another group, right? I won't name the group because I suggested that we do some interviews, and the leadership in the group said, "Well, we have to do this and this and this." And pretty soon, myself as an eager person who just wants to do new things, I got completely deflated. I'm like, all I wanted to do is talk to somebody, and now suddenly they've put all these roadblocks and barriers up, and I don't feel like even pursuing it.
Exactly.
I think what happened, and there's
too much bureaucracy. We're adding these layers and layers of bureaucracy and task forces. And we don't need it. We don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, but we're talking about Adobe and Magento and having to deal with lots of legalese stuff. So that's going to happen. Those type of things have to happen because they have to have some structure around it. And I guess my complaint that I have about the Magento Association since day one has been the lack of transparency and communications coming from them to tell us. They could tell us every month that nothing's happening, or the thing. I know that they had said before that it took a lot longer for the legal part of it to happen, but we don't hear from anybody. Like, nobody says anything. They have a social media channel that they could be tweeting on. They're not out there being upfront and getting ahead of the things. They are waiting for something to happen and then reacting. And that's what we're seeing right now, is reactions to what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, and you just explained why that was happening in this other context that you were in, where you wanted to do this thing. It happened to be doing interviews, and then you got stuck waiting for permission and bureaucracy. And then you said, well, there's reasons for that. There's legal reasons why we need the bureaucracy, but nevertheless, the bureaucracy slowed it down, killed the enthusiasm, probably prevented you. You probably haven't talked about, like, it limited your transparency within this little micro example where you're not talking about who you're going to interview because you're waiting for some legal approval. And I'm sure that they dealt with the same issues in a different context where they can't talk about whatever they want to talk about because they have to wait. I'm guessing they have to wait for approvals, and they have to wait for everybody to agree and everybody to vote on blah, 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 blah. I'm guessing it's all the same, that same type of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think you're right. But again, simply telling us that's what the hang up is, that would really be helpful. Again, going back to my case, I was told by the director that here's the reasons why you have to slow it down. We're not just going to let you interview anybody. They gave me some reasons. Of course, I didn't think they were valid, but they
gave you a blacklist. I was on the I was probably on the black. Definitely don't interview this guy.
But I feel as though the reasons why were answered. I didn't necessarily agree with them, but I think that in that case, at least there was enough communication where it was put out that, okay, you're right, that's fine, I'll wait a little bit. Now, with the Magento Association, there's been tons of complaints. Like, I bet if you tweeted to Magento Association, nobody would get back to you.
Totally, yeah.
So if I were to say...
I mean...
when is the podcast coming out? Even like that would be something they should market in advance.
Yeah. I don't know. It just sounds like it's bureaucracy, which is necessary from someone's perspective, and that is what is slowing things down. Everybody in the association are all solid people, productive people that care deeply about Magento and are the best people to be involved. And I just think that there's some bureaucracy that's slowing everything down, and it's just, I don't know. All
right, so let's we have less than 15 minutes left if we're trying to keep this under an hour.
Jeez. Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your conversation with Eric, because I had a conversation with Eric as well, and he's stoked, and he is on board with keeping the community involved with Adobe. So I think.
Well, I want to hear about your conversation with him, because I already know about my conversation with him. And what did you guys? You mean you had him on your podcast? And stuff?
We had like a green room conversation about what we were going to talk about on the podcast.
Okay, gotcha.
He was on the podcast earlier, and when I first started Talk Commerce, but this is not. We were talking specifically about how can we help them with communication, and we had some specific events we want to try to plan.
Gotcha.
And one thing that we'd like to try to do is revive the Contribution Day. And I think if reviving Contribution Day would also help Adobe understand how many people are impassioned by Magento and its code. Did you like that word? Impassioned by code.
Impassioned by code?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to write that down. Impassioned by code, because maybe that'll be the theme of things. That they're impassioned by code, and that they should take advantage of that excitement that's there, at that time, and that those, what used to happen is that they do a community day, they'd rally all the people together to get a bunch of PR requests in, and then we'd all have a little contest, and we'd eat some food, and we'd help.
Everybody's happy.
We'd help contribute to Magento, and people feel good about that. So somewhere between, I think the last one we organized was at Meet Magento India in 2020. Or no, we did one in 2021 virtually. So, and I don't know, I think there was one around Romania, but anyways, I don't know. So,
that just happened, right?
Yeah, Romania happened. And so that's just a great time to really connect with, like you said, the developers. When Adobe needs to talk directly to the developers, that is their opportunity to talk directly to them. So I talked to Eric about that, about doing some of those. We're going to try to do one in person in Orlando on January 21st at an unconference that we're trying to organize.
Oh, cool.
And
what's are you organizing it like a Magento unconference in Orlando, kind of like how the German guys do it?
Yeah, it's like that, but I'd like to make it open to other platforms. We'd like to invite Shopware and BigCommerce. I think it'd be fun to have multiple communities there. And
that's a cool idea.
We can mix up the different types of beer that you're drinking, however you want to mix up communities: red wine, white wine, blush, rosé, or in TJ's case,
myself.
Bourbon, Scotch,
whiskey,
rye whiskey, mixing those things up. And I don't know why I put them all into alcohol context. You could say caffeine or coffee and decaf, whatever. We don't have to make any more metaphors. There hasn't been an unconference like that in the U.S., and I think it'd be kind of fun.
Right.
And then we did touch on.
That's a great idea, man.
Yeah, we did.
I've always thought those were super interesting.
It is fun, and it is now. I don't know.
You went to one of the ones out in Germany or out in Europe, right?
Yeah, I went to the last one in 2019. It was super fun. It was really
nice,
and the Shopware people were there on that one as well. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool that you're bringing that over here, man. I think that's a really good. I think that's a great format. That for some reason, I don't know, we're so business oriented out here, probably, that we don't do those unconference formats. But I think that's really neat.
Yeah. So it will be capped. I think we're going to try to cap it at 140. And the only reason I threw out that number is because that's what they cap it for in Germany. I think that if you have too many people, it doesn't make sense. And then there'll be some charge for tickets. It's not going to be super cheap because I don't feel as though the cost of there probably isn't going to be a lot of sponsors at a high premium cost to pay for it. So we'll see. And it seems like with any platform, there has to be some kind of commercial value to it. In Germany, it's a little different. Like they always get whatever that server. There's a server company, Cluster something.
Max Cluster.
They'll throw in a couple $1,000s no matter what,
Yeah. Yeah. Plus the government probably pays for their conference space and stuff like that. You know how it is out there.
Oh, socialism. Jeez.
So socialist.
So we're trying that. And then, we did sort of bring up the subject of having a Meet Magento in the U.S. and how would that look and where could we have it? And it's not going to be in Minnesota in January.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was a great conversation, and I would like to talk to more people in Magento tomorrow. That is going to be October 12th. I have the team who did the Magento Magento Upgrade Compatibility Tool on my podcast, and it was such a cool thing to learn about, and there's so many things that Adobe could be doing to bring it to the community and tell them about those things. So, my goal is to talk to more people at Adobe and tell them about what are the features that are coming out. And I think what Adobe needs to do is tell them, hey, these are core features that are part of both commerce and open source, or even
that's really cool, man.
This is an underpinning to Magento open source.
That's really cool, man. I think that you're in a great position to be doing that because, you are within the partner program. And it's just so rare. Like so much of the time, people that are partners, they don't want to be critical. They just want to, they just want to go with the flow. And I think they really need people like you that are willing to, say the reality of why people are frustrated, but at the same time doing it in a productive way and, to try to communicate with all the people that you need to talk to kind of get things moving and stuff like that. So,
and there's been other people in our community that have been critical of Adobe, and Adobe does listen to them.
Okay. I don't know too many other partners, to be honest. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is a bit of an issue, but
yeah, I think that it has to happen in a sense, and it has to help move us forward. And if I can help bridge some gap there, I think that's more important than not saying anything.
That's great, man. That's really cool.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left, less than 10 minutes left now. What else? Do you want to talk about Entrepreneurs Organization a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about that, dude. I know you're always talking about how you're involved with that, and it's running a business is definitely something that's uniquely challenging, and so it sounds like you've found a lot of good insights from that group. And
yeah, so I am on a committee. I'm the membership chair for Entrepreneurs Organization Minnesota, and okay. I think that the Magento Association could learn a lot from what other networking. Actually, so Entrepreneurs Organization is not a networking group; it is a peer group, entrepreneurs that learn from other entrepreneurs, and it is a largely a volunteer-led effort. So in Minnesota, we have one paid person, and she's really split between Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we're all volunteers. We pay the central organization, which there's 15,000 members worldwide, and Austin, Texas happens to be one of the most active chapters and one of the hardest to get into. So I would look it up while you're in. Well, you should look it up. Austin Entrepreneurs Organization is fantastic. There's like 250 members, and there's, I don't know how many, 50-person waiting list or something like that. It's crazy.
Could you get me in? Could you slip me past the waiting list?
I cannot get you in, but I can certainly do an introduction. So our conference this spring was in Austin. And of course you could do anything you want in Texas, which was handy if you wanted to do a conference. And
you can't do anything you want in Texas.
Yeah.
There's certain laws.
Yeah, I was there in April for that. But anyways, one of the things that I've suggested to the Magento Association is that they simply set up a marketing and communication committee, or whatever you want to say, where some people that know about marketing communication can help with that messaging to the greater community. Because I think right now there's just a bunch of people that don't, there's some people at Smith Buckland that are helping run it, but they don't know our community. They know how to run a nonprofit association, but they don't know the passion of what we have in our community. And then there's a bunch of other people that are attached, but they don't necessarily have a role.
Yeah.
So, I think with entrepreneurs anyways, I definitely, you are a person that I look at who has always really made an effort to do different things and make things happen. And, I think what you've done is so exemplary as an entrepreneur to do what you've done and then keep moving forward and thinking of new things. I think that's so fun. Man. And that's, for me, that's what I get the most excitement out of, is not getting stagnated into a rut. And, the big things in EO that we talk about are, I'm in a small group here. I think we have about 10 members we call them a forum. And we talk we meet once a month for 4 hours, and we just talk about issues that we're having in our business.
Wow, 4 hours. That's a long, it's like That's cool. You probably get pretty deep.
4 hours out of a month. Yep. It sounds like a long time, but in the scheme of things, it's not very much time at all. So we talk about specific things that maybe you wouldn't know that you could talk about with somebody. So, if you have family members that are just working at somewhere, they don't have any clue about what you're trying to do or what your struggles are, or there's all kinds of things that are specific to a business that you wouldn't necessarily tell other people. And then there's things that are specific to your business that maybe you don't want your competitors to know. If you have something new you're going to release, or you're developing something, or let's say you have you're struggling with something. This is a small group of people that are not competitors that like my forum group has been around for more than 20 years. So it's a established group of people. Everybody hasn't been in it that long. There's been members coming in and out, but we know each other pretty well, and that we could talk to each other about these sort of topics without worrying about them going outside and telling anybody. It's strictly confidential, everything that happens. So
that's cool.
In that sense, it's a great resource. It's like having a board of directors that you can speak to every month.
Right.
And then there's a greater group of people in Minnesota. We have about 100 people in EO Minnesota. So there's a greater people that we would get together every once in a while, once a month, and have some networking and have some fun or whatever we do.
Nice, man. It's a cool group, but there's a waiting list. So even if I want to get in, I probably couldn't. So,
well, you'd have to contact EO Austin, which I can do an introduction for you.
Gotcha. I don't know, man. I'm bad with groups. I'm not.
Yeah, this is like I'm the membership chair, and I can only do what I'm doing, and I don't need to get rejected by you too.
Are you the membership chair for the entire organization?
No, just Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Just Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
That's
well,
cool,
this
man.
has been a great hour, and it's gone by super fast. And I appreciate you helping me center my video on the screen.
Yes.
I will make one comment as we close today. You have slowly sunk down in your chair.
I've gotten,
and
my posture's
we are no longer like
we're not synced up anymore,
proportioned correctly. So
there we go.
Just to let everybody know that isn't watching us, Kalen spent about 20 minutes telling me where I should sit and how I should sit.
And then I promptly slid down in my seat and I messed it all up. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to get comfy when you're on these long podcasts.
Is this a long one?
This is long. I mean, to talk to you for this long, I mean, jeez.
It was fun though. You have to admit.
It was. I always have fun talking to you, man.
All right.
Always a good time.
Thanks a lot. Have a great afternoon. And we will learn more about the Magento Association on October 13th. But we could post this right away since we actually didn't say any of the names were in that letter.
Right. Makes sense. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
So then if you hit stop.